Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. Today's date is April 30, 2022, and tomorrow is May Day, also known as International Workers' Day, or Labor Day, if you're pretty much anywhere aside from the United States. In honor of that, during the month of May, we're going to do a whole bunch of labor-related readings. I mean, obviously this is a socialist channel, so everything we do is in some way labor-related. However, we're going to focus particularly on labor unions, especially the how-to organize labor unions aspect, more of the mass labor organizing, outside of the socialist communist vanguard. The last 5 or 6 decades of US history have seen the decline and then really pretty much the annihilation, or at least the decimation of the labor movement. Currently, it seems like that is maybe going to start getting rebuilt somewhat. We see the Amazon labor union and some Starbucks unions cropping up across the country. That's great news. We're going to do some coverage of that. So send in whatever labor stories you have, newspaper stories, whatever it is. I'll take a look. Or just other readings, labor history readings that you like, etc. I'll have a look and see what we can work in. It's a big month, 31 days. We'll see what we can get done. I've, of course, got some readings picked out as well. So that brings me actually to today's reading, which is the Branch Organizing Manual for the Hotel and Restaurant Workers Industrial Union 640 of the Industrial Workers of the World, or the IWW, also known sometimes as the Wobblies. This manual was written in June 2001, and it's a brief introduction for new members of this union to basically what to expect, what kind of activities they do. Recently on a live stream, somebody was asking, they had never been a member of an organization before. How do they do decision making? What do they, what to expect basically? And every organization is going to be different, but here's an example of how one labor union does their thing. So I want to mention also that I'm working currently on an audiobook of the IWW General Organizing Manual from 1996. However, that's a longer read, and I wanted to just make sure to get something up for May Day. So that, and again, many other organizing resources are going to be put on the channel this month. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the organization, the IWW, before we get into the reading, just by way of background. So the IWW is a radical anti-capitalist labor union that was founded in 1905. And the founding concept, there were a lot of interesting people who were involved in the founding of this union, was industrial unionism. They felt that craft or trade unionism had gone as an organizing form as far as it could go, but that it could not really defeat capitalists, and they saw unions scabbing against each other and all kinds of stuff. On this channel, Socialism for All, you can find at least 4 audiobooks currently of Eugene Debs, one of the co-founders of the IWW, later a Socialist Party presidential candidate, talking about some of the relative advantages of organizing by industry rather than organizing by trade. In other words, this doesn't just mean industry like heavy industry. It means whatever industry you're in, service industry, manufacturing, etc. Actually, here is a chart. This is known as Father Haggerty's wheel. At the top, you see one big union, Industrial Workers of the World. So the one big union was this idea to get all the workers, no matter what type of work you're doing, no matter what branch of industry you work in, to get everybody into the same union. And then they had this system for organizing the different industries. So you see around the edges the departments. So number 100 is the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries. Then there's the Department of Mining and Minerals, 200. Then the Department of General Construction, 300. Then the Department of Manufacture and General Production, 400. Then it's a little harder to see, but Transportation and Communication are Department 500, and then Public Service is Department 600. So then within that, you have the industrial unions themselves organized into departments. So in Department 100, you have, for example, agricultural workers organized into Industrial Union 110, then lumber workers, Industrial Union 120, fishery workers, Industrial Union 130, and floricultural workers, Industrial Union 140. Then you go into mining and minerals, and you see metal mine workers, Industrial Union 210, and then coal mine workers in Industrial Union 220, then oil workers, Industrial Union 230, and so on. So each of the departments is broken up into industrial unions, and then there's different types of work put into each of those. So the idea is that if all the workers in the economy, or at least within an industry, are in the same union, then the strike can shut down the entire sector of production and be a much more effective form of labor action. So this is what Debs outlined. I mean, it wasn't just Debs, obviously, who came up with this concept. He was just a proponent of it. But he did help to co-found the IWW. But in the audiobooks that we have on the channel, he explains in detail why this is advantageous. And it's really unfortunate, actually, that this still isn't the dominant model today. You have had other labor federations pick up the industrial union model, like the CIO. But then again, I mean, with Taft-Hartley in the 1940s, that was a piece of very restrictive anti-labor legislation, which kind of outlawed a lot of the effective industrial unionist tactics anyway. So it's a complicated situation that U.S. labor is in. Anyway, cutting back to this 640 branch manual, the Hotel and Restaurant Workers Industrial Union is 640. That's within the 600 Department Public Service. Basically, within that department, you have healthcare workers, 610, educational workers, 620, recreational and entertainment workers, 630, hotel and restaurant workers, 640, highway maintenance workers, 650, general distribution workers, 660. This would include like a lot of the U.S. economy today, like retail, stuff like that. And then finally, public service workers, industrial union, 670. That would be gas, power plants, waterworks, etc. So let's say that you're working in a hotel or a restaurant. You would join industrial union or be assigned into industrial union 640. And again, this is not, local number 640. It's industrial union number 640 within the one big union structure of the IWW. Okay, so you're a server, you're a bus person, you're a host, you are a cook, you are a janitor, you're a front desk person, you're a housekeeper, whatever. You are in this industrial union. You don't go to the cooks union, you don't go to the servers union, you don't go to the housekeeping union. You go to the hotel and restaurant workers industrial union. That way, if a strike or other action is called, everyone within the entire building, and if it's well developed in your area, maybe everyone in the entire region stops working in that industry. That's the idea. Okay, so that's a little bit of a background on industrial unionism and its origins. The IWW itself, I think that the early IWW is one of the most fascinating, exciting, and important things that happened in U.S. labor and socialist history. Unfortunately, the union was subjected to massive government persecution in the first couple of decades of its existence. This dramatically hurt the union, and also there were a number of splits internally in the union. One of the splits was over the question of aligning with a political party or not, and there were splits over this. And the IWW today, it's gone through a lot of different permutations over its history, but I would say that the IWW today is strongly influenced by anarchist ideology. These are people who would probably call you a tanky. I'm not exactly sure how it is today, but I know that that's kind of the way that it's been. Now, as the U.S. left is growing and expanding rapidly, and people are learning to see the big picture of what we're actually up against with global capital, I'm sure that there's going to be opportunities for discourse and exchanging ideas, and we can overcome some of the stereotypes about Marxism, etc. That said, the IWW, I think, historically has kind of been, at least historically in the more recent era, much more on the sort of anti-communist anarchist side. That said, they're doing real work in the real world, organizing real workers for real improvements in industry and raising class consciousness through all of those struggles. So that's important work. It's just something to be aware of. We run a Marxist channel here. I just want people to know sort of some of that background. But especially if you're in a small to like medium-sized workplace where some of the bigger unions that are very reliant on like lawyers and things like that, they may not be interested, they may not want to touch your workplace, basically, if it's too small, if they can't get a lot of dues money out of it. The IWW can be a very good sort of militant fighting union for organizing small workplaces in particular. I would recommend, well, that's why I'm putting it on the channel, honestly. If you're in a kind of DIY situation, the IWW is really geared towards that. So I'd say that's point number one. Point number two, where maybe is a strength of the IWW, is dual carding. So basically, this is where people are members of more than one union. So basically, the IWW has a mass membership model. So really, anybody can join, whether you're even currently employed or not, or if you are employed, whether your workplace is currently unionized or not, you can just join and just be a member and just participate in it. So sometimes what people do, and I think that this is sort of like maybe point number two, point number one being people in small and like medium DIY union situations, that's a major feature. I would say also you see a lot of dual carders, people who are in some other union, but most of the unions today are like pretty broke ideologically. There's just not a lot of fight happening necessarily. So sometimes people who are a bit more militant in terms of their, pro-labor ideology, they'll be a member of like whatever sort of business union runs their workplace, but they will also join the Wobblies on the side to get more of a taste of like a militant spirit and to stay in touch with that. And so you'll see sometimes people who are members of other unions that maybe aren't doing enough, they will join the IWW to get some energy, I guess, injected back into their main union situation. So I'd say that those are kind of the two main strengths of the IWW, though it is growing in number from what I understand. But we're going to use it as a starting point here on this channel because it is pretty accessible. So that said, let's get into this pamphlet. Congratulations on joining the IWW. But there's just one problem. What now? Perhaps you're the only person in your community in the IWW, or there is no organized IWW. It's time to organize the hospitality industry in your area. While this pamphlet will assist you in forming a new IWW branch, nothing substitutes for contacts with experienced Wobblies. Make contact with other IWW branches as much as possible. While there are some similar skills in organizing a branch and organizing in the workplace, this manual is specifically for branches. Check the IWW's organizing manual and the IU 640 organizing manual for information specific to workplace organizing. What is an IWW branch? A branch is the basic unit of the IWW. It consists of 10 or more dues-paying members who live within an hour's travel of each other. The essential difference between a branch and an IWW group is that a branch is an official chartered unit of the IWW, and it is entitled to certain rights and responsibilities as defined in the IWW Constitution. Perhaps the most important benefit is that a branch is entitled to retain half of the dues it collects. Branches are required to make monthly reports and accountings of dues monies collected. There are 3 types of branches in the IWW. The first is the Industrial Union Branch, or IUB. The IUB consists of 10 or more members who work in one industry, as defined by our industrial unions. 2 is the General Membership Branch, or GMB. This consists of 10 or more members in any industry, not organized into a local industrial union branch. Then, third is the Job Branch. When Wobblies organize in a particular workplace, they form a Job Branch. The Job Branch is not an independent branch and is responsible to the local GMB or IUB. Branch Charter. When you have over 10 members, you may petition the General Executive Board, GEB, or Regional Organizing Committee, ROC, for a branch charter. All members signing the petition will need to have paid dues in the last 2 months. Send your petition to either General Headquarters, GHQ, or to your ROC headquarters. This manual will be specific to organizing industrial union branches, IUBs, in the hotel and restaurant industry. Basics of building the IU 640 IWW locally. We are trying to build a new international union for hotel and restaurant workers, which is democratic and run by its members. In making this decision, we have chosen several issues to organize around, and a strategy for making this occur. At this juncture, our strategy is to organize IU 640 branches based on members willing to make a commitment to build our union. We are looking for 10 to 20 members in a city who are up to learning about IWW-style unionism, are capable in setting up branches that can function with hundreds of members, and who can organize at the workplace. This is a tall order, but we believe we can do it. When starting an IU 640 branch, please consult with the General Organizing Committee, GOC, for advice. Building and training a core group. The best way of forming a solid IWW branch is to start off with 3 to 5 people who are dedicated to building the IWW and learning the art of organizing. When building this core group, look for friends, coworkers, and acquaintances who may have some of the following qualities. 1. Labor organizing experience, especially legal aspects. 2. Group skills, such as running meetings, fundraising, bookkeeping, etc. 3. Communication skills, graphics, writing, web design, etc. 4. Contacts with diverse communities within the working class, language skills, etc. 5. Find out if there are other IWWs in the area. Talk to nearby branches, perhaps they have contacts with former or potential members. When you have formed a core group, spend some time, perhaps a month or two, meeting informally. Spend this time learning what the IWW is about and to get to know each other. Set some goals for the local IWW over the next year and make strategies to meet these goals. Recruiting membership. Beyond the core group, the best way of recruiting new members is by doing practical activity. People want to make a better world and want to see that the IWW can deliver. Usually, the best members are labor activists who are fed up with sellout business unions. They bring in many talents and contacts. However, be careful with unionists who want to build the IWW as a union support group rather than a union. So comment there, what does that mean? It means sometimes people will join a more radical or militant group in support of some other larger group, basically kind of co-opting it. I mentioned before that the dual carding thing is kind of a big phenomenon, and that's one thing. If people are already in a union and then want to find ways to make that union more militant through the training and inspiration provided by this more independent, more radical union. However, some people do just like joining smaller groups to say, oh, you can go help me with this now. Well, that's not really the point. It is an independent organization. Anyway, continuing. Seek potential members with skills and a dedication to building the IWW, rather than someone with a particular social ideology that's looking for a home. So comment here. This is another thing you will find in the world of orgs is, it kind of goes with the, not using this organization as a support group for some other cause rather than its own independent thing. Sometimes you will get people joining your organization that kind of try to take it over with some sort of external influence, whatever it is. While this may go against logic, community activists are generally not a good target for the initial membership of a branch. Activists generally have a lot on their plate and will jump into activity and then back out, usually quickly. Training your members. Throughout the life of a branch, you will need to continually train and educate your members, so start early. When members have particular skills, they can share them with the other members by giving trainings. An excellent method of passing along skills is teaming an experienced member with a new member when doing a particular task. Other skills may be hard to come by. Here are some ways of learning them. 1. Ask for an experienced IWW member to come to town to give a training. If this is impossible, phone, email, or write wobbly organizers for advice. 2. Seek out sympathetic union activists. There will be many of them, and ask their advice. 3. Some business unions give trainings on organizing. While it is not always the IWW way, you can learn a lot. 4. Some colleges hold classes and workshops in labor organizing. 5. Nonprofit fundraising groups often have trainings for nonprofit group skills. 6. If you don't know, search the web, go to the library, ask an elder. Being serious. Workers seeking help want the appearance of professionalism in a union because they're often scared and want security. This doesn't mean you need to change your appearance, dress up, etc. when you're doing wobbly business. But please be serious about the IWW and are organizing. Because if it's poorly done, organizing can have dreadful effects on workers' employment, ability to find future work, etc. While many of these issues aren't important when a group or branch is small, it's best to instill the proper attitude because the branch will need them as it gets larger. Be polite and courteous. Show up when you say you're going to, or call and reschedule. Make sure the branch is doing its tasks such as bookkeeping, sending dues in to the headquarters, etc. on a monthly basis. Be organized and don't waste people's time. If you don't know something, it's okay. Say you don't know, but we'll try to find out the answer. Do it and get back to the person with the answer. Don't just leave people hanging. Do what you say you're going to do or pass along the task. Again, it's okay not to do something you said you would do, but it's not fair to the branch to just drop a task. Make branch literature look clean and not sloppy, cheesy, or far out. Make efforts to include all sorts of workers. Anticipate childcare issues, health limitations, different languages, etc. Don't gossip. Often you will need to keep actions, organizational plans, etc. confidential. Infrastructure. It takes infrastructure and organization to make an organization. Here are some of the basic needs that almost all groups have. Get a P.O. box. For most groups, a post office box is the permanent base of operations. You may someday open an office, but offices can move. A P.O. box provides stability. Go to a convenient government post office and ask to rent a box for your union. Never use a private mail company because they often go out of business. Have a contact phone number. Branches often use the personal phone number of a stable member. This is often for economic reasons. But as soon as you can, get a branch phone so that the branch is listed in the telephone directory. Again, stability is the key. As mobile and cellular phone costs go down, investigate this as an alternative. Comment, remember this is 2001. Email address. Get an email account for your branch through a local internet provider, a free web-based provider like Hotmail, Yahoo, etc., or from IWW.org. If you don't understand how to go about this, ask other Wobblies how to go about it. Email list. If many of the members of your branch have access to email, you can set up a list through the IWW.org website, which allows you to email everyone at the same time. This facilitates discussions between meetings. Create a branch website. When you do, include branch activities, practical information on how the IWW organizes, and contact info. This can lead to many contacts. Comment, again, this is before social media, but they would probably list that right here. Next, get listed in your IWW newspaper and on IWW.org as the IWW contact for your area. Create a database. Keep a list of members, including their names, addresses, phone numbers, email, dues payments, and any other information relevant to keeping in contact with them. It's up to your group how to organize such a database. It can be used to make mailing lists, mailing labels, phone trees, even email lists. Such data can be kept on paper or on 3x5 cards, but the most convenient method is using a computer database application. Microsoft Access and AppleWorks, ClarisWorks are two database applications that are on many computers. Paperwork. You need to keep a well-organized record of your bills and expenses, correspondence, organizing efforts, contacts, phone lists, members, reports, and the like. However, much paperwork can be avoided if you keep things simple and keep things organized. A good filing system can be key to keeping things in order, but it need not be complicated. Establish a branch bank account. Make sure you have protections against theft, such as cosigners for checks, etc. In the U.S., you need an EIN or employer identification number. Call GHQ for help setting that up. Keeping members equals building solidarity. One of the hardest skills to learn is how to keep membership. Don't be disheartened by turnover. Most voluntary organizations experience about 40 to 60% turnover in a year. Here are some ways to keep turnover low. People hate their time being wasted. When you're going to do something, be organized or don't do it. Keep it simple. Don't discuss, meet, vote, and fret over the things that don't need to be. Run tight meetings. Make it fun. Have regular informal parties, get-togethers, chin wags so people get to know each other. Distribute responsibilities. Make every member feel valuable. Avoid cliques. Invite and make room for a wide variety of people. The more variety, the greater the strength and skill pool. When taking on tasks, pair experienced members with inexperienced to build confidence and camaraderie. Agitation isn't the same as organization. Hell-raising is fun, and it may get results, but it is limited. Make a strategy which builds a permanent union. Make sure branch officers are doing their duties. Make sure dues are being sent to the GOC. Make sure that the members are getting what they deserve, organizing bulletins, newspapers, ballots at election time. Focus on building the IWW. We are members of the IWW because we believe that the IWW is the best way of organizing the working class. The IWW shouldn't be a front group for any ideology, political group, or coalition of unionists. Don't be the gopher for other unions or groups. Expect to be treated as an equal. Don't do work for other groups if it doesn't benefit the IWW. In the 70s, one GMB spent 6 months conducting a boycott for another union. While they did learn some skills, in the long term, they burned out most of their membership, and the other union got all the credit. This doesn't mean we shouldn't do any support work, but do it as the IWW, so we get credit for it. Keep politics out of the union. The IWW's strength is that it has no ism. We stand for economic or industrial democracy. Our principles unite the best aspects of many political movements. Make sure that all workers feel comfortable in your branch. So comment. I mentioned before, I think from what I've seen of it, that the IWW is heavily dominated by anarchism. And true to this last point, I don't think that it is a strength of the union. I think it's a limitation. So the idea here is that they're trying to focus on practical work, organizing workers. But when your union has the stated goal of replacing capitalism, I think that is, we're Marxists. I think anybody listening to this channel probably could write some criticisms of, that's just a contradiction. You can't really be against capitalism and say that you have no ism. It's just a question of which ism are you for. So perhaps this is a question that they have yet to solve. Anyway, know the enemy. Of course, you know individual bosses and their actions, but what are the specific conditions of the hospitality industry in your area? Check out business publications, the Restaurant and Hotel Associations, Journal of Commerce, etc. Identify particular issues for the IU 640 to agitate or organize around. Are there issues specific to the hospitality industry in your region? Do you have contact with workers having common problems? Are their issues isolated, or can they be raised by a larger segment of the industry? Know your enemy. Investigate business conditions, weaknesses, and strengths. Use IU 640 surveys to identify industry issues, workplaces with disgruntled workers, etc. Activity. Agitate. Post IU 640 stickers, circulate leaflets. Have public discussions of industry issues with a local or guest IWW speaker. Form and train outreach teams to go into workplaces and make contact with workers. Put on trainings for new members and contacts. Teach basic labor law, how to do outreach, etc. Put on educationals or movie nights about the IWW's ideals and goals. Start a hotline for workers to call. Publicize the number on stickers and leaflets. Participate in local labor actions. Walk picket lines. Attend labor-sponsored rallies and demonstrations. Carry well-made signs that say, IWW in solidarity with, or an injury to one is an injury to all, and have the IWW globe on signs. When you are out supporting average workers in struggle, they will come out to support you. So that's the end of this short pamphlet. Like I said, this one didn't focus so much on workplace organizing. That's going to be covered in the organizing manual coming up next on the channel. Instead, what we have here is general advice for organizing for the day-to-day basic existence of an organization. Basically, all of the stuff that union organizers do outside of or in between organizing on the shop floor. Keeping the books, getting the P.O. box, fielding contacts from interested potential members, community outreach, union promotion, etc. As I mentioned, all through the month of May, we're going to be doing a lot of specific labor organizing material, so stick around for that. Also next week, we're going to have a COVID update coming up. We're going to resume the basic Marxism-Leninism study guide, whole bunch of other stuff. This is like video number 25 for April 2022, so we've had a very productive month, and I hope to carry that over into May. Anyway, let's wrap it up for now. What do you think? Leave a question or comment below. I'm sure that there are some people with union experience out there listening to this, maybe even specific experience with the IWW or with even Industrial Union 640. What do you think? Do you have stories to share? Let us know in the comments, and we'll continue the discussion there as always. Otherwise, thanks for listening, and thanks to the current patrons whose names are on the screen. We don't run ads on this channel, so that support is important. If you'd like to get your name up on the screen as well, head to patreon.com/socialismforall. You can sign up for as little as $2 a month or more, whatever you see fit. Every donation is encouraging. They're also materially helpful, so thank you all very much for those. I appreciate it a lot. It's enabled me, that support, to produce a lot more content than I would have been able to do otherwise without that support. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to spend all this time that I have been doing on the channel. Otherwise, after the content is up and published, engagement helps to boost it in the YouTube algorithm, helps more people to stumble across it. So liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, all of that helps to boost everything in the YouTube algorithm. So the channel has been growing, and a lot of it is due to that engagement. So thank you all for engaging with the content as you've been doing. Otherwise, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next video.